Today's topic is one that you've heard of many times throughout your life, from your doctor, from maybe your personal trainer, or just from reading and going online. And that is the importance to your health of staying physically active consistently for the rest of your life. Now, this is going to have benefits on your longevity, on your quality of life, and it's going to make you more resistant to injuries. Now, this is an especially important topic these days because we're sitting at our desk, looking at our laptops, we're working because of the pandemic. Now, I'm going to talk about the physiological basis of staying active, because if you understand this, my hope is that you'll be more motivated to do it and not just think of it as some kind of trite piece of advice. We're going to talk about two things. One is called Wolff's Law, and the other one is Davis's Law. These are principles or concepts in orthopedics that deal with the human body's ability to adapt to external stimuli. In this case, the load or the forces or stress placed upon your musculoskeletal system. When I speak of load, that's the force of gravity, that's lifting heavy things like a 50-pound bag of concrete, or if you're doing sports, the different things that are involved in sports. There's just a stress that's placed onto your skeleton. Adapt is a term that's often used in evolution, and it means your body's ability to change in response to environmental stimuli, and it's a survival mechanism. So your body is genetically coded to do things, to make changes so that life can be prolonged. Wolff's Law states that the bones in a healthy human will respond to changes in the loads placed upon it. When you place a load on your skeleton, it responds by building up more bone, by thickening your bone. The trabeculae, which is the inner scaffolding of bone, gets more dense, okay, and it orients into the lines of force. The cortex, which is the outer part of bone, thickens, okay. All this happens by itself, but you need to place that load on your bones, otherwise it won't happen. As you can imagine, the inverse of Wolff's Law is true as well. If you don't have loads on your spine, on your bones, i.e. if you're sedentary a lot, your bones will atrophy. They'll undergo what's called osteopenia, where your trabeculae becomes less dense and there's less cortex being built. The process by which your bones remodel in response to stress is called mechanotransduction. Basically, your cells in your bones have this innate ability to sense pressure. That pressure is converted to a biochemical signal that sets the cell signaling process into motion, and thus remodeling. Now, your bone's living material, okay, it's a living tissue. It's got several types of cells: osteoprogenitor cells, osteoblasts, osteocytes, osteoclasts. These cells work together to keep your bones healthy and strong. You know, one of the dangers of being on the International Space Station for extended periods is the loss of bone mass. So the astronauts up there have gyms, have resistance machines that they go on daily. And if they didn't do that, that lack of stimulus would quickly make their bones brittle. Let's take an example of Wolff's Law here. When you're standing up, all right, you have the entire weight of your body gets transmitted from your spine down to your hip joints, to your femur and tibia, down to your foot. And there's a load being placed on these bones. So you can imagine, and because of that, bone remodeling is occurring. Okay, so your body can adapt to that stress placed upon it. But when you sit down, look what happens to your hips. They're disengaged. Okay, when you sit down, the pressure is placed on these two bumps, those two hard bumps under each butt. That's called the ischial tuberosity. That bears most of the weight. It's removed from your hips. Now your femur is extended this way. There's gravity still acting on your femur bone, but it's distributed along the whole length of your femur bone. There's less forces being placed upon, less load being placed per square inch of your femur bone, and less remodeling occurs. Now, this could put you at risk for hip fractures when you're older. As a matter of fact, you know, when you hear about elderly people falling and breaking their hip, it's not really the fall. It's not the fall that caused their hip to break. What happens is they've got some osteopenia in their hip, and when they step off a curb or take a step, or just a plain simple step, the femoral neck, which is this part, breaks. It fractures, causing them to fall. So it's not the fall that breaks the hip, it's the hip breaks first, causing them to fall, and that could be deadly, actually, because it could cause an embolism. So we don't want that happening to you. Just remember, every time you're sitting down, if you're sitting down for hours at a day, that you're removing that you're turning off the remodeling of the bone, the thickening of the bone that occurs in your legs. So make sure to stand up and place that load regularly, okay, not once in a while, regularly on your bones to keep them thick, keep that remodeling going. Now Davis's law is a corollary to Wolff's law. It's basically Wolff's law is applied to the tendons and ligaments. Tendons connect your muscle to a bone. Ligaments connect one bone to another bone. And they're considered non-living tissue, essentially. It's mostly collagen fibers embedded within a matrix and tiny cells called fibroblasts that are there to repair collagen strands if you were to snap some of them. So same thing, if you're sedentary, those ligaments atrophy, there's less remodeling happening, less collagen synthesis, and you'll get weak ligaments and tendons. So they'll start aching, you know, as you get older. Okay, as you do the normal things that you do, they won't be able to handle that. Now for your wrist and your elbow, you could do this. This is a 7-pound weight. The idea again is just to apply a force, some stress to those ligaments and tendons, and just know that when you do that, that mechanotransduction is happening, and you're activating those cells, those fibroblasts to remodel those ligaments and tendons. Okay, with the shoulder, all right, you can do all kinds of things to make sure you get all planes of motion. And I'll make a video about this later that shows you more specific exercises. In summary, stay active, stay physically active regularly, because that is going to improve your quality of life, it's going to extend your lifespan, it's going to prevent you from getting injured. Okay, it's going to be like a guard against that. Your bones, ligaments, tendons, soft tissues respond to mechanical stresses, respond in a favorable way to mechanical stresses by thickening, by hypertrophying, by staying active. If you're inactive, those muscles, ligaments, tendons, and bones will become dormant in a sense, and they will atrophy. And the next time you try to lift something heavy, or maybe 20 years down the line, you step up a curb, you're going to experience the results, and it's not going to be good. So stay active. There's many ways to do it. You could do squats. Squats are an excellent form of exercise if you're limited on time. You could do 50 squats and 50 push-ups a day. That's better than nothing. Taking a walk around your neighborhood, especially if there's hills. All right, hanging a punching bag in your garage and doing some sparring, some punching and kicking. And you just be creative about it, all right? You don't have to go to a gym. So that's it for today. See you next time.